Koss Headphones, the American headphone company that brought you these beauties right here. In collaboration with Mastrop, of course. In case you don't know these are the KSC75Xs, the Mastrop variant. And these are the Koss Porta Pro Xs, the Mastrop variant as well. Both are in midnight blue, which pretty much just look almost black, so you can practically call them black, but in real life, they look so dark blue that it's really hard to tell that they're blue at all. They pretty much just look black. Now, for those of you who may or may not have already noticed something a little off here, these are Porta Pro drivers with the 75 hook, and these are the exact opposite. These are the 75 drivers with the Pro's headband. And as for why this is the way it is, I will explain later at the end of the review. But for now, let's just jump into, let's see what's up. Build quality. They're both pretty much made out of plastic. The Porta Pros feel like they're made out of a slightly better plastic, but very minute differences between the two. There's metal on the hook here, where the hook meets the plastic part of the hook itself. And then over here it becomes silicone. The silicone is relatively comfortable, not extremely comfortable, but it's not terrible either. So I think it's definitely acceptable. Here on the Porta Pro's headband, it's plastic, and then the metal is the headband itself, not the part that joins up with the driver itself, but the part that goes like at the sides to the top of your head and adjusts. These are plastic as well, the ones that adjust the size of the headband itself. So build quality wise, I think you're getting what you paid for, possibly a little better. They're quite acceptable. Like if these were to break on you for being like kind of like a, I guess, mediocre build quality, even though they're pretty good for what they're costing, for what they cost you, you wouldn't think too much of it. And you'd probably just buy a replacement and you wouldn't really cry about it. It'd be perfectly fine. Comfort. These are quite comfortable. However, they clamp a little too hard and you can't really go hours and hours with them on because you'll definitely feel the clamp force, the pressure. These are on the other side of the spectrum, however. They're, relatively comfortable as well, but because of their structure and design, they kind of sit really far apart from your ears, the drivers themselves. So what you feel the most is the silicone, I guess you could say the wing, behind your ear. It feels a little strange to me. To me, it just kind of feels like it's far off from your head. So I don't know. It just doesn't feel very secure for my ears and my head. That's just me. But all in all, I can definitely wear these, and it wouldn't be a huge issue. So can you wear them? Yeah, they're quite comfortable, and some might even say that they prefer it over the Porta Pro's comfort. And the feel of wearing it, As far as amping goes, both of these are 60 ohms and definitely do not require an amp. However, you can amp them with a mild bit of, extra amping. Don't go level 3 on your AAA 789 and expect these to sing, because you'll probably blow these. You'll make them explode. But you can set them to like a level 1, possibly a level 2. And get somewhere below like a 10, 11 a.m. and be perfectly fine with how much power these are receiving and how loud they are. So I don't think you'd have any complaints there. What is my camera doing today? I guess it's taking a vacation. Okay. So let's go into the sound here. The bass. Porta Pros are warmer and thicker. These are definitely for the electronic music listener. If you're not really into detail, or if you really don't think you'll be paying attention to the detail because you're on the go and like it's more of just about hearing the overall song itself with the music as opposed to picking out the details in the song, then the Porta Pro sound signature, as far as bass goes, might be better off for you, because there's quite a lot of bass in it for an open back budget pair of headphones from 1984 or something like that. They're quite impressive, I gotta say. KSC75s, however, are the exact opposite here. They're quite bass light, and yes, very clean bass, sure, but it's very bass light, and you definitely wouldn't say that the bass is the strongest or the highlight of the KSC75. So if you're a bass lover, you'd lean more towards the Porta Pro X's as opposed to these. However, the rest of what I'm about to say could impact your opinion, and maybe you might switch sides. So hold on to that one. For the mids, neither of them were far too impressive on the mids here. None of them have forward mids or too laid back either. I'd say they're more towards the laid back side, but not extremely laid back. The mids really didn't stand out to me whatsoever in either one of these. I did notice background guitars pop a little bit more on the Porta Pros, just a little more noticeable. And however, the fact that these are less cloudy, the fact that these are more cloudy in comparison to the KSC75Xs, I felt that the lack of cloudiness really helped it, really helped the mids pop out, if anything, a little more, but really not by much. You would have to have these side by side to notice a difference, and if you already had one of those, it wouldn't really make a difference it wouldn't make sense to side grade in that regard. Maybe just kind of wait until one of them breaks and then change to the other ones and vice versa. That would be your best bet. And I don't really think you would, particularly miss the mids of one to go in favor with the others. So I think you'd be fine. The highs. Oh man, quite different here as well. Porta Pros, very cloudy, very veiled, and not too detailed. Still quite detailed for what you'd expect for like $40, 1984. Like I said, it's just these are old and they sound pretty good for what they're supposed to be and for what they are, But in today's, market with everything else that's out there, it's not as impressive as it used to be. The KSC75s, however, these are far more detailed in the treble than the Porta Pros for sure. With these, it really pops out more, and it's more forward in the treble, and I think there's better extension in the treble too, like cymbals and stuff like that. Those would definitely be the highlight of the KSC75Xs, the treble, and I'll get to the imaging in a bit. But yeah, the treble is definitely the highlight of the KSC75Xs, whereas with the Porta Pros, not so much. I think that's actually its worst area here. The high is just not very good extension, not very good detail, not a whole lot of everything, but it's still more impressive than most of what's out there on the market right now. So if I could get this thing to focus up. The 75s could get a tad sibilant if you were like maxing out the volume to what you normally would. Not straight up max, but more like what you would listen to. Like this is the loudest volume I would listen to. These would get a tad bit sibilant in the S's and the TH's every now and then. Not so much that it would be a huge problem for you, but you can definitely notice a sibilance, whereas these are far more recessed in that area and would hardly ever give you any issues with sibilance. In fact, no, I don't think they'd give you any issues with sibilance whatsoever. Soundstage. I'd say the Porta Pros are kind of moderate there. They're not narrow per se, but they're not incredibly wide either. I just think they're a moderate soundstage. They're acceptable. Whereas the KSC75Xs do sound a little wider, but because of their structure and their design, and the fact that they're not so close to your ears, or at least that's the way it makes it sound, the soundstage feels a lot wider. It feels more like it's in the room with you as opposed to on your head or near your head. So that's definitely a plus for the KSC75s. I did like the soundstage on these, regardless of the build of the headband versus the hooks. Like I tried both. I tried swapping the drivers with the hooks and the headband. to test out the sounds. And yeah, sure, less of a soundstage when you use the 75 drivers on the Porta Pro headband, but it's still wider than the Porta Pro drivers for sure. Imaging. The 75s definitely outclass the PowerPoints, the Porta Pros in this category. And I think that's just due to being less cloudy. It allows the highs and the treble to pop out more and other details within a song. And let's just say the imaging is exactly the same on both of these, but because of the tuning and because of the build in the 75s, the imaging pops out more on the 75s. And it's definitely, I guess you could say, better on these. So I got to give this one to the 75s. So let me get to the overall here. I don't think these are quite meant for the same person. I think these are meant for two different people with two different use cases. I think the Porta Pros are meant for people that are on the go, or not in an office, but you can get away with using them in an office. But let's just say on the go, but you want to jam out to these. You want to raise the volume and you want to enjoy your music above everything else that you're listening to while on the go. That's what the Porta Pros are for. And the lack of sibilance allows you to do that without hearing any, without the fatigue and the discomfort that you might get from that elevation or extra prominence in the treble. On the other hand, the 75s are more to be used for like background music. Maybe it's not about listening to the music so much as it is about being aware of your surroundings and knowing where to go and stuff. But every now and then you'll pay attention to whatever is playing and you'll enjoy that as well. Also, for whoever doesn't want to use a headband because it messes up their hair or whatever, then these are, well, more ideal than those for sure. But you can definitely get used to them after probably a couple of days worth of usage. I'm just saying I personally did not enjoy this type of hook. But if I was definitely in that scenario where I needed something not to mess up my hair, but I needed background music, not really to jam out, then I would definitely have gone with the KSC75s. Now, ultimately for me, I prefer the sound of the 75s over the Porta Pros. However, I swapped them out. I literally just swapped them out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the Porta Pro headband with the 75 drivers. And I'm going to give the Porta Pro drivers with the 75 hooks to someone I know. Just because I know they'll enjoy it and it's still a good product. And, I'm not giving someone a lemon. It's still pretty good. It's just that I prefer those. So that's just the way it is. The Porta Pro seemed a little too cloudy, a little too woolly for my tastes. So I didn't really jump on those. Out, in. And that's what I'm going to do.